Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Modern Seniors Podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Ami.
We are longtime friends, here to share real stories, have some laughs, and navigate life with curiosity. Let's use and share whatever wisdom we've stored up now. We are so grateful to have you with us. Hit that subscribe and like button and let's dive in.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Neil. And we are going to welcome Tanya. Tanya, this is your first time with us, and also Barbara. And welcome back, Barbara. This is your second time with us. And we are really grateful for the two of you to come together. And Tanya, also a longtime friend. And so I wanting to we are actually experimenting, right, Neil? We are experimenting
Always.
today. Tanya, yeah. So Tanya is going to take the mic. So she is going to interview, sort of, or ask Barbara her questions. And the topic today, it's all about um, how do you prepare for the parents who are aging, and there are many many things that our mind is really asking these questions, and we don't often have the right answer. And so since Barbara is working in that space as a seniors advocate, she is just the right person to do this. And so we are so grateful. And without any further ado, I would like the two of you please to share a little bit of your background, just a little bit, and then Tanya, you take the mic.
Sure. Barbara's going to go first then?
Okay,
Yes.
sure. So I am the founders of SeniorsAdvocate.ca, and I am a later lifestyle planner, a health care and housing navigator, and I do private consultations and work with clients. And I've been doing this for more than 30 years. It's a long time. Mind you, 15 years of that was caring for my parents. So it gave me a really good boots on the ground background and lots of learning through there and afterwards. My philosophy, which I believe I coined this phrase back in 2009, is that I practice gentle advocacy. And
Mhm.
gentle advocacy means that there are no losers, there are only winners, but with some compromise. And life is all about compromises. And when I'm working with people and by their side, I'm not telling them what to do. I help them understand their options, and then they can make their own choices. And again, sometimes it might be with compromise. My goal is to preserve quality of life. That's, I don't know why, but it's just to me is the most important thing that we really need to understand. And we can do that by recognizing and understanding our values and dignity. And then one more thing, the biggest lesson, families don't usually struggle because of aging. They struggle because they waited too long to have the conversations and to make a plan. There. A little long, but anyway, you go.
That was
Thanks, Tanya.
perfect. Oh, Barb, I'm so happy to meet you. I like a bit about me. I've been living in Vancouver pretty much my whole life, and I'm a teacher in the Vancouver School District. I live in a home, a multi-generational home with my husband and our two kids, and with my parents and my adult brother and three cats. And so I've had a chance to see, I think because the age gap between my parents and I is quite small, I've had a chance to see them support and be with their aging parents. So watching my grandparents as an adult, watching my parents navigate that, and now me starting to wonder as my parents are hitting their 70s what that might look like for us. So, and then this podcast, although it's called Modern Seniors, and then it says age 50 and up, and then my boss called me middle-aged the other day. Like I'm really struggling with all these words.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I,
it's tough.
yeah, I turned 50 just a couple weeks ago, so I'm,
Well,
Wow.
congratulations. You've made it this
yeah.
far.
Eh,
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Belated happy birthday to Tanya.
Oh, thanks.
This is wonderful. So thank you so much for the intro. And Tanya, you have prepared some questions for Barbara. And why don't we tackle them and then halfway we'll just do a little bit of breaks. Take it away,
Sure.
Tanya.
All right. My first question, I'm just going down the list as we prepared them. Has to do with the great wealth transfer. And that's something that I wasn't sure is just um, an actual change in demographics or like how economics are changing in the 21st century, or if it's um, something that has generationally always been the case. But what's your opinion on
Okay.
the great?
Well, my background was finance for 20 years, so 25 years actually. But I'm going to say that I think that people understand in this era, this time, the great wealth transfer because what I'm seeing is that, you know, many people think that the adult children are going to inherit a significant amount of wealth. But what I see every day now for Gen Xers is the transfer of caring responsibility with the transfer of money to come later if there's money left, because caring is so expensive now, or aging is so horrendously expensive now. Parents are living longer. Many require years of home support. So medications, maybe renovations on the home if they're staying in the home, and for you, luckily, you saw that with your grandparents. Perhaps so you have an idea of what might happen. Not everybody has that luxury. All of a sudden, they're thrown into caregiving, like I was with my parents, and it was quite. I was like a deer in the headlights, and then I was a caregiver for 15 years. Um, so much of what families thought about inheritance is not. Um, it's more used to preserve quality of life for the older person. So yeah, and we've never seen so many people growing old at the same time. So it is a real dilemma, and caregiving is really a primary conversation right now for a lot of people.
So, but let me just interject actually. How uh, with that frame of question that Tanya asked, how can she prepared? What are some thoughts and preparations that need to be
Well,
prepared
we'll
for or thought out?
Yeah, so I'll be getting into that a little bit later.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
perfect.
yeah, like right now, it is, it is in another section that I'm going to talk a
yeah.
little bit about that.
Okay,
So,
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
good, good.
And I wanted to ask a question too, which is you said that we have more aging people now than ever before. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
well, it's because of the baby boomer bubble, I suppose. It was after World War
Hmm.
II that, all of a sudden, all these children were born. Um, um, happy people creating babies, but it is a phenomena, and so that's why we've had this bubble of all these people aging at the same time, and it's never
Mhm.
been such a large group, and I don't know that we'll ever see such a thing again. So, and the problem is that as much as I know, it was, a number of years ago, I read a book called Boom, Bust, and Echo,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they were predicting back then that this was going to happen and that you would need $1 million to retire comfortably. And nobody paid attention. Nobody paid attention to the fact that we'll need more housing, that we'll need more caregivers, all that sort of stuff. So that's, when I say, there's never been so many older people as there are right now. And it happened quite rapidly that people haven't been able to, it takes time
Mm.
to secure property, to build housing for them. And also when you're dealing with government funds and,
Mm.
that sort of thing, it's nothing comes easily or quickly. So, that's a big problem.
So
And now
Barbara,
governments are encouraging people to stay at home.
Wow.
so Barbara, if we are underprepared for this current boom, um, and we're rapidly ramping up, does that mean we're going to be overprepared when we reach the next point in the cycle?
Well, there will be a point when we probably won't need all that space anymore. And I think it's just like any other wave that we go through or era where, when we came through the Industrial Revolution and now we're in the technology revolution and all this sort of stuff, right? So
Mhm.
things do change and needs change. And yeah, it'll eventually die down, but not in our time. So, but I think it's supposed to peak out in 2035 and around then.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
um, yeah. So,
So now,
Okay.
I remember in the 90s, I was in social studies class and we were examining population graphs, and we were told at that time that this was going to come. And my mom's stepfather must have read Boom Bust and Echo, or maybe he wrote it, but he locked in hard on the advice in that book, and it did make all the difference. But
oh, that's
uh,
great.
I
Yeah.
think I would agree with you that it, may not have translated to the next generation, right? I don't know
No.
very many other people other than him that really locked in on that, other than people who
Yeah.
either had existing family wealth or,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
are
exactly.
just in a certain class where that wealth is
Yeah,
available.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it is all about planning, financial planning as well.
yeah,
And that's the goal, is that we get the younger generations to have the conversations, and we'll get into that in a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
So,
But
um,
and I don't mean to dwell on this first question or hint too much at what you have coming
no,
next,
no,
but
okay.
is there a regulatory aspect of this? Because I do kind of wonder if there's a okay, so Neil was sort of imagining infrastructure, how we would
Mhm,
need to have infrastructure to support housing, for example.
mhm,
Um, but I'm thinking more particularly about I, I, I'm going to stick to my great wealth transfer question,
mhm.
but
Yeah.
that sense of of how we could have regulation or policy that would better support and protect seniors. Um,
Well,
but it's hard to
there's
explain. But
policy, there's
I'm like
policy around financial abuse and that sort of stuff.
yeah. Is it good enough?
Well, a lot of abuse is hidden, and we
Usually from family too.
yeah, yeah, and scams. I mean, just the
Yeah.
scams we see are so bad, right?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, we to educate even the parents, to educate them around abuse and financial fraud, and to protect their money. And so if it's people they don't know, I was going to talk about this a little bit later, I think, but if it's people they don't know, they can say, well, my children are looking after my money. So no, I don't have access to it. They
Right.
can just say things like that or they can not take the calls. Um, that's the whole thing, is that we really have to learn that if we don't recognize the phone number, let it go to voicemail,
Yeah.
or if there's a voice, to press one, because that really helps a lot. And yeah, so and then with the banks, for example, they're supposed to have protocols and you know, plans around this sort of stuff. But all the head offices are in Ontario. And so if we ever want to get anything done, it takes time if we have complaints and things like that, right? And that's, I've always found that a real bugbear, that there aren't sort of like, not regulatory bodies, but um, departments that can control those sorts of things on the West Coast, to make it
Yeah.
easier, So
Yeah.
anyway,
Because in that way, we're a little bit at the mercy of the whatever the business end of the economy. I mean, I grew up Canadian, so I tend to think that government and government agencies are trustworthy, or that they want to work in the best interest of the people. But something like a bank is not like, they don't have the same requirement. You know what I
well,
mean?
yeah, yeah, and yeah, there are these big institutions that when I was in my younger years, I would, and working in the finance business, people just loved the banks. They didn't care who they were dealing with as a person, but because they were at the bank, nothing could go wrong. And then things did go wrong. And the investment advisor, who was not a good investment advisor, caused
Yeah.
problems. So it's not about the institution. It's not it's about the person you're dealing with. It's about
Hmm.
you. At some point, either you check their reputation and make sure that uh, they are interested and follow the same investment strategy that you have. Now, you might not even have an investment strategy because you don't know, because you're not into finance. But are you a spender? Are you a saver? Are you a risk taker? So those are all the questions that should be asked. And if your profile doesn't really fit the investment advisor should say, I think somebody else might be able to do a better job for you. Not because, you're wrong. It's just my investments focus more towards new issues and speculative stocks and things like that. So, yeah.
Mm.
So I'm
So,
just going to carry us forward. And Tanya,
Darn,
your
because I have a
second
million
question.
off-topic
I know.
questions.
So that's why we need to bring both of you again. Okay. So yeah, because
Oh
we
man, I
want to
had a
make
really good one.
sure. Okay, well then ask it.
Maybe this is going to question number two of me. But
okay.
Okay.
okay, my parents being still young, I would consider them to be quite savvy, and they are, sort of Gen X moving towards Boomer. So, uh, is there a trend in aging where a person who is quite savvy just becomes less savvy? I'm not talking about dementia, but or cognitive decline, but just that
Well,
sense that,
I don't know that it's necessarily, well, okay, there's two things. Some of it is ego. And so people will just refuse to accept help, will refuse to make change because they've always done it this way and they were an expert at their trade, perhaps, whether it was
right,
maybe
right.
technology or computers or whatever. Um, Doing their bills and their finances or whatever, but things change, right? And sometimes people are just stubborn. So there's that. And then, of course, if sometimes they're overwhelmed and they'll fall behind in current day technology, right? And it's a huge emotional leap to go from 65 to 70 to 80. And so I'm just going to say that I wrote this little thing here that you have to consider every milestone in your life. And it's all about moving forward. So into your teens, graduating from school, then going to university. At each stage, we're looking forward, getting married or getting hired for your first big job, having your first child, and then becoming an empty nester. Okay. And that's actually a lot of people will talk about becoming an empty nester and, they worry about it. Some manage really well and others can't cope with it at all. It takes a long time. And, sometimes it ends up in marital changes, divorce or something because people realize we didn't have anything in common but the kids. I mean, there's so many things that can go on, right? And then um, it's what happens in the next stage of life as you get, so this is one of the reasons why I started my business, because I was in retirement planning and I could see what was going on and I knew what happened in my life. We were completely unprepared. And so, and my parents, yeah, I mean, I always call them the delinquent parents. I shouldn't say that, but anyway, I love them. I love them dearly. Anyway, so what I was going to say is that people would retire and they're so happy about retirement. Some are a bit nervous, but they would think about the golf games, about the looking after the grandkids, about traveling and all these wonderful things they could do. But they could not think beyond that in retirement when your body starts to break down, when your knees hurt, when you start to get a little incontinence and or your teeth, maybe your dentures are loose or not a good fit or something, hearing aids, like these things are such hurdles for some people that it's hard for them to get out of the house, to socialize, those sort of things, right? So there's so many things that can go on that and it's not well, I'm going to say I turned 72 this year in December, actually, last year. And I thought, oh my God, okay, I'm going to do my 10-year plan, for my business and all that. I thought, what? I can't do a 10-year plan at 72. Oh my God. And then I thought, Barb, you idiot, just do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Just do it. Whatever happens, happens, right? But
yeah,
I
Yeah.
think I'm a
Yeah.
young 70-year-old, and a lot of people are young 70-year-olds now. So,
Yeah.
it is part of our way, and I have a lot to say about that. One of the things is about ageism
you're
and
right,
how
right.
ageism has really come to the forefront in the last, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And so there's a change there too. And we're talking down less about older people. And and so yeah, it's kind of becoming, I had a little note. I was reading up a little bit on ageism last night. And so that phrase was coined in, I think it was, well, after in the Industrial Revolution. And so what was
Yeah.
happening was
Yeah.
that older people weren't fast enough in the production lines and all this sort of stuff. So they were getting a bad rap. They were getting, called, old and not productive people. So that it was happened long before that, but it was much more subtle. And in that stage, then it really just became, they're not useful people. So,
Hmm.
and now that's changing.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
fascinating. And that kind of gets onto my second question. So, how are we doing for time, Ami? Should I go ask?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Yeah. Very good.
So,
oh,
do you have more to
well,
say about
well,
what millennials and Gen X should be discussing with their aging
oh,
parents?
yeah. I think what's really important before we get into the discussion is to understand that people are at that age very, very sensitive, and they can feel that they're being put up against the wall, and they're being picked on or whatever. That the children, it all depends on how you ask the questions. So it's really important for the children, adult children, to understand how to approach these topics. So you would approach it from the sense of curiosity, like, Mom and Dad, what do you think you might do if this were to happen? Like, really ask the questions and really get to know your parents too. Like what are your true values about this or that? Like, some people don't even think about their values. And so when you're planning power of attorney and your executor for your will, you think, okay, I'll just make it the oldest child. Well, that child has, maybe has a drinking problem or has no sense of money whatsoever. So you have to really, really step outside of the box and think about it clearly as the parent. But this is talking about, how millennials and Gen Xers can talk to their parents. And, in some
I think
cases,
that's perfect advice. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I could go into more, but it's another time. We can do it again.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just want to say, if any of our audience have questions or feedback or comments or ideas about this, please drop us a line. I mean, what is the email address?
Yes. You can contact us at bcmodernseniors@gmail.com.
That would be wonderful. We look forward to hearing from you, and we love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil. So this is a really very important topics of our day. Because Barbara, I also notice it too as I observe not very many young people actually would have a heart-to-heart talk with their parents, and and so the planning goes out of the door
Out the window,
and
yeah.
or the
Mhm.
window.
Hmm.
Uh, and the thing is, though, we see this a lot when a parent actually dies. They're scrambling around. And what happened now, and that's why I really appreciate Tanya's questions, because what happened now is that then the lawyers uh, is being called called in to address the issue. And I think that if the planning is taking place much earlier, I think much of this unnecessary troubles and heartaches and headaches can be avoided.
Yeah. So,
Correct.
yeah, I think you were asking the 5 key points in the planning process. Do you want to get into that now? And
I'm in.
I'm happy to.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
You're going to be surprised again. Okay. So, my first question would be, what does quality of life mean to you? That's what I would be asking the parents. Are we doing this planning process with the children involved? Or are we doing it just with the parents? That is another key point. And I think it's really important to do it just with the parents because then they talk more openly. They are much more willing to share how they're feeling and what's going on. So I would be asking what matters most to them, what gives life meaning. So this whole process can take from 10 to 15 hours. It's not an easy planning process. Um, um, and it can set the tone
Mhm.
for easier conversations later.
Mhm.
So understanding what your quality of life is, and then sometimes, and if you're asking your parents those types of questions, okay, so I was talking if I was being the planner and actually going through the process, okay, so if you're the kids and you are wanting to ask your parents these questions, I mean those are things you should talk about first of all if you don't have
Mhm.
that close relationship with them, you know and then if it's a difficult conversation, just like when you're talking to kids, sometimes it's easier to talk when you're driving, you know? Maybe it's easier to talk over a cup of tea or maybe on the golf course. I don't know, like there's choose your where you're at and consider what might be the easiest thing to do. And or sometimes it's easier if you have the neutral third party there, and that would be somebody like myself that would get the conversation going and make it just an easy conversation like this. Keep it kind of light and full of curiosity, like what would you do, okay, what would I do? So even as the adult child, if this were to happen to me, this is I think what I would do right now, but what would I do if I was older? And so, and then the parent might then they will open up and start thinking about it and saying, yeah, well, you know, I don't want this to happen, but I wouldn't mind if this happened. And so, and sometimes when I'm talking to them, we work with scenario A, B, and C, because you don't know if you're going to get sick. You don't know when you're going to die. Um, how much money do you have, right? Is the money going to run out? And, there's so many things to cover. So we talk about health, we talk about housing, and, that can be the whole planning one can be we talk about finances, legal and advanced care planning. And the key message from me is that don't wait for a crisis you to have these conversations. It's best to start the conversations when you're just casually visiting. And there's ways to lead up to it, if you want help with how to start the conversations, right? So
That is
um,
really rich material, Barbara. And I think what I'm going to do is send my son this clip.
oh
Yes.
yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. Sometimes the parents want to talk about it, but the kids don't want to have anything to do with it because the parents have
Hmm.
always been, say, the breadwinners, the matriarchs and patriarchs and all this sort of stuff, right? They
And what's
cannot
more, the
imagine
parents
their
have
parents
already
not
been
having.
through the experience looking after their own parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
maybe more, even more aware.
So they're more open to
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I've seen both and it's led to disaster when the children, they might have been made power of attorney, but they refuse to enact it. And the
Hmm.
parent is just because they have dementia or usually it's early stage dementia. There's this one uh, stage that the people can get is anosognosia, where it's not necessarily dementia, but you absolutely believe that what's happening is
But
normal and that
yeah.
it's right, but you're
Mm.
not doing anything normal. So, like, so I have some clients who might say, I'll call the plumber. You don't have to do it. And so they never call the plumber. So, is it dementia? Is it the anosognosia? I'm not sure. And that's rarely diagnosed as something like that, anosognosia. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
things that we could talk about, and so if that starts happening, you were asking earlier, is there a stage when your parents do start to do things that aren't quite right? If they're starting to do that, the first thing we want to do is correct them. But it's much easier on their ego and their self-worth and all that sort of stuff if you just let it go, do it yourself, or just say, oops, where were you going with that, mom, or dad? Or just keep it light. And I mean, the family dynamics can be so
Yeah.
varied
Yeah.
and vast, but
Yeah, you have me imagining
Mhm.
scenarios where folks might be entering aging, maybe the boomer age, but they had kids so late in life that their millennial kids are not quite launched as adults either, and so
Mhm.
I can see that, like um, that's that type of situation, particularly with not really stepping in to enact the power of attorney, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think what I'm
wild.
also hearing here is really having an open communication and relationship with
Yeah,
your older parents. That's what I'm hearing here, because even in that conversation, it takes lighter, and it can happen in such a way that is respectful, and it is also um it's honoring them, and still getting the results that you hope you would get. But
Mhm.
I think this
yeah,
conversation doesn't only take once, but and it this is an ongoing. And then I thankfully for you, Tanya, you have great relationship with your parents, and
Wow, that's a
in a way
blessing.
that that you can talk to them at any time, and they're open to it. At least that's what I observe. Anyway,
All right, we'll
Tanya,
keep that to the
to
internet
your
version.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the time that we've talked, it's this has really deepened my understanding of the word dignity and added like real depth
Dignity.
and color.
Yeah.
Um, and what you're saying about quality of life is sort of exactly fitting into that puzzle piece I had about security. Uh, but I was thinking of skipping question three, which is a accommodation
Sure.
conversation about demographics, because I think I'd rather hear
Yeah.
more about the protective factors
Okay.
that protect against financial fraud, scams, and elder abuse, and see if you had more to say
Okay.
about that. Is that all right?
Sure. But I just wanted to say about, those conversations and about people refusing help and that sort of thing. I want to say that aging is a process, like any stage of life. And it's
Hmm.
not an event, so we can't wait for the right time to move or to make change or to plan. Planning is the most important thing, and then once you have the options, then later on, I have clients who, I usually, my clients are long term until the end of life, right? So, or they go into long term care home, and then the kids can manage sometimes. So but what I was going to say was that this one particular client said to me, okay, they were living in a big home and the daughter wanted them to move right away. And the dad said, no, no, I'm going to wait 2 years still. And the market's improving, all this sort of stuff,
Right,
right?
right.
And so anyway, there I was working with him and his wife, and 2 years went by, and I just said, it's time, because this is what you told. We have it in writing here. That is what you said. And then, no, 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 I'm not ready. 3 years came by, and it was the same thing. But
Oh.
the troubles that they were having at
Mm.
home were really becoming extreme, and they had lots of medical issues with diabetes and dementia, and his wife was really quite sick, and he was a burnt out caregiver. So burnout is another thing that is very difficult to deal with. So anyway, so what I want to say is that it is a stage of life, and it's something that you need to plan for. And it's scary because you have a timeline, but you can still plan options. May look at it that way, and make it the best stage of life possible. Even though there's so many barriers and gaps that I see in the system, but when you work with an advocate, sometimes it helps you get through those things. Even as a
Mm.
coach, that you don't have to have them there all the time, but
Are there a
yeah.
lot of resources that people can use in this process? Besides yourself, of course.
Um, well, there's not many people that do the kind of planning that I do, but you see, I took my financial planning model and then I morphed it with, so many other models, and then my own personal experiences. And so what I've created, as I say, a planning tool, but also I call it a personal resource guide. So yeah, after my parents died, I had a binder that I had to keep all the lab reports, all the requisitions, and absolutely everything that I might need, and a list of say like strata lot numbers if they were in a strata, the insurance company's login codes, and that's the other thing is all that stuff, right? So that
Mm.
binder held all of that stuff, and as we're doing the planning, we're gathering all that information, which people hate to do. It's
Hmm.
it's like writing a will. It's the last thing you ever want to do, right? You put it off and you put it off. So the planning, I help people through that.
Mhm.
And,
That
oh,
is
and so if there's other people that
incredible.
do that, well, as I say, there's financial planners, and some of them might talk about the psychosocial aspects and the aging process and but if they haven't had that background or personal experience, it's really difficult. And I think personal experience goes a long way.
Yeah.
That's a really
That's
good point
amazing.
because I was thinking
Yeah.
of all the do-it-yourselfers out there who want to just go to the library and get a book on how to prepare for this stuff and do it themselves.
Yeah.
Is there are
Well, the
obviously
thing is
some
that,
risks with that.
oh yes, definitely, because that information, like just knowing who all your contacts are, like, is it immediate family? Who would you who is what's it called? Estranged from the family, right? Who do you not want to come into your care home if and possibly shove a piece of paper in front of you to get you to sign your power of attorney over to somebody else.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And but also going through that list, um, yeah, it really helps you. If you haven't done your legal documents yet, it helps put a different perspective on things where you can think logically about who those people should be. I don't do that. I leave it up to the lawyers and all the other people, notaries and that sort of stuff. But we can definitely talk about it ahead of time. I do seminars and presentations. I have
Hmm.
like about a series of 13 presentations that I do, PowerPoints, and either in person or on Zoom, and or this type of platform, and it ends up covering all of the planning process, and it's just education. It's large amount, a huge bonus, because you're learning all the background and inside information kind of thing about why things are.
We'll have to
I
put a lot of that in the show notes for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to take just a very brief note here to say that this conversation is so important. Just listening to Tanya's questions and the thought
Great
process,
question.
Tanya, that you put into this, it's really helpful. And for others who are in this situation, they're thinking about their parents, they don't know what to do. And this is the reason why this platform existed, because we wanted this platform to be a community that is safe, a community that cares for one another, a community that shares knowledge, and above all, we can't do this on our own. So we're inviting you to come and share your thoughts. And um, if you have a questions, we would love to hear from you. Whether you can come to this platform, be our guests, and but before I forget, we I felt like we just scratched the surface. So I am going to put you on a spotlight to say, um, if we would love to have you back, Tanya and Barbara. Would you like to come back for the part two of this?
Oh, of course. Especially because
I
I only
think it'd
did
be
three of my
fun.
four questions.
Yeah, there's so
Yeah,
many questions, and I love
Mhm.
answering them as to my best ability. But there's no one answer for anything.
exactly.
Life is not black and white, and especially this stage of life. I don't want to
Mhm.
say it's gray, but
Yeah,
it is whatever color you want it to be. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing, is people think there's going to be fixed answers and that this is the way it has to be. But
uh,
it's all about the thought
no,
process and what's important to you.
yeah,
Mhm.
And then we do the workarounds. As an
yes,
advocate and navigator, I do the workarounds. And the children can do the workarounds too, if that's their gig. They like to
Yeah,
do that sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Some are
And
built for it, others aren't.
I would invite our
Yeah.
audience also to suggest any other guests that they would like us to have on the show to discuss these matters, or uh, suggest themselves if you feel that you would like to contribute.
absolutely. Well, Tanya, you have I think one more questions.
I do. My last question had to do with predicting the future, uh, which is, what do you foresee happening to Vancouver's population in the next 10 years? I like that you already mentioned the population graph is forecasted to top out, you said at 2035. Um, but uh, what about the mobility of population? And my example of this
Mm.
is actually more about my age and people slightly younger than mine. Um, a teacher at our school asked her grade 12 students, what do you have planned? And they said things like, oh, I'm going to go to Langara College, or I'm going to go to UBC. Where are you going to live? Oh, I'm going to live at home until I'm finished university. And, um, my parents are fine with me staying home. This is the things they told their teacher. But then she said, well, what are your parents planning to do after you graduate? And a huge percentage of the class said, oh, they're going to move to Victoria or they're going to move to the
Hmm.
island.
Oh boy.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like the number
wow.
of people who are sort of in a mortgage in Vancouver and have zero intention of paying it off, their plan is to pay it off and relocate to a less expensive place. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
retirement plan.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and that's the thing with our this generation, my generation right now, is that we think so much younger, and well, maybe it's still probably the no, I guess it would be the boomers, yeah. So from 62 to 80 years of age, kind of thing. Um, they're still young now. Like we're thinking about uh, downsizing and keep making life simpler and easier and enjoying it in whichever way we can, and possibly learning about the next stage when we are going to need help. So yeah, that is a bit of a kicker for the younger generation, for the millennials, hopefully, that they are finding their own way, making their own way. I think there's a big gap between um, I don't know, I'll say successes in life. I don't mean just financially, but I mean kids that are able to leave the nest and to function well on their
Yeah.
own, right? And then those
Yeah.
who find it more difficult. Um, you know, uh, there needs to be supports and there needs to be um, more training, I suppose. The funny thing is, we often, in my age group, we often talk about, well, when we were kids, we were put out on the street to play till 7 o'clock at night or whatever. And if we got bruises and bumps, we solved the problems ourselves, right?
That
Yeah.
might have been the best training you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
When
agree.
I was your age, I would walk 20 miles to school.
Hmm.
In the snow barefoot. No, just kidding. But I
Uphill
mean,
both
that's what
ways.
that we used to laugh about my parents and grandparents saying things like that, right? But now, as an older, wiser person, you see what really can happen if you're not given the opportunity to problem solve yourself and to strategize and work things through.
oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's an analog to that in playground design for another podcast.
oh, great.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. So the future isn't just about, and so one of the big issues is housing, right? And a lack of housing for older people, and also multi-generational housing and all this sort of stuff. What's really exciting is that now we are talking about maintaining a community and healthcare and support all in one community, and you get that with your family in a sense, Tanya, because you probably are caring for your family. You all step in for each other and help, right? So so yeah, so and the question, because the government is saying you need to age in place. They haven't
Yeah.
thought it through very well because it costs just as much money to age in place as it does to go into long-term care practically. And that, again, is a whole other conversation. Sure, you can do it cheaper, but when push comes to shove and comes down to the crunch, it's expensive and exhausting if you're trying to do it as a family member. It's
Mm.
impossible. But how can we safely age in place is what I do a lot of focusing on. So I have a presentation on that. So aging successfully at home,
Oh, can't wait
the
to
big
hear it.
topic.
But
Hmm.
I mean, we're probably running out of time.
Well,
Well,
what was the last question again?
Oh,
That
I mean, you answered it pretty well.
did
It
I
had to
cover it
do
for you?
on the,
Okay, good.
yeah,
The
it was on the,
multi-generation. Oh,
yeah,
well, yeah, that was a great, that's truly a good example. I don't know if it was you, Neil, or Tanya that said it, but the children moving, the parents moving to Victoria and,
yeah,
leaving the kids.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like a whole different, oh, what do I do now, right?
Hmm.
So,
But
so
like you say, Tanya, when you're discussing these topics, a million other questions come to
Always.
mind as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
That's
there's no
okay. We'll just
And
do
shortage
it
of
again.
follow-up material.
Yeah.
exactly. And this is probably a good place for us to to really uh plan for the next round and having you back again, because I, even if just listening to Tanya and your questions and Barb your answer, there are so many criteria that we have not even touched yet. So it's a good place to wrap up from here and just saying, we wanted to, we plan to have you back. And yeah, we thank our sponsors as well for sponsoring our podcast, and we are grateful for every donations and sponsorship. We can't grow this on our own, so we want a community that believe what we're doing to come alongside us. And Tanya, thank you so much for your questions. I really believe how important that was. And also, I'm imagining other people who are listening, that this is something that they thought, wow, oh my word, I need to start looking into this. And Barbara, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Again,
um, Barbara can be actually reached at BC Seniors
no, no, be careful
Advocate.
there. It's
No,
just called
no, be careful. Yes, seniors.
senioradvocate.ca. I am not related to the
Yes,
Provincial Seniors Advocate. I started my business several years before them. I had to make that straight to a lot of seniors who are very dedicated to the Provincial Seniors Advocate and saying, you shouldn't be doing that. But I started first.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you did. You actually did start
yeah,
first, because I know that
2009.
I met you before that.
Yeah.
So thank you also so much, and thank you for joining us here at Beyond Studio. Our
Thank
stories
you.
continue, and we need not to walk this road alone. So every triumph, every shadow, and every lesson can be a bridge of hope for another. Until next time, stay true, stay engaged, and keep sharing your heart. This is where we all belong, at the Modern Seniors. Thank you so much. And we